Yeah, hello viewers, welcome to the math class. So today we shall be talking about the quadratic equation. So when we talk about the word quadratic equation, the quadratic equation is of the general form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. What makes this to be an equation? This is an equation because of this equal sign, but if I'm regarding to quadratic expression, then I'm going to cancel out this. So this is a general form for quadratic expression. So this is our quadratic equation. 1 by a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of c, and c is known as the constant or the intercept. Now, one thing you will need to take note of regarding quadratic equation is that the highest order of quadratic equation is of order 2. Okay, this is the order of quadratic equation. Unlike linear equation where you have ax plus b equals 0. This is a linear equation. Why? Because the highest order here is what? Order 1. So that is one of the clear difference between a quadratic equation and also a linear equation. So when you are given a problem on a quadratic equation and you want to find the zeros of your equation, what I mean by zeros of the equation, it means you want to get the two values for your x, because looking at the order of this, it shows the number of zeros of the equation you need to get. Okay, and one thing I would like to explain to you is that the sign of this leading coefficient determines how your graph behaves. If the leading coefficient is positive, okay, if you have something like this, if it's positive, it do what? It faces down. But if your leading coefficient is negative, then it faces up. Okay, so with this, you'll be able to determine the root of the equations. Now, looking at this, these are zeros. Then you can determine this, your value is going to be the value of the x1, and this is going to be your corresponding value for the what? For the x2. But today, we are not interested in looking at the graph, but instead how to get our x, that is the zeros of the equation. Now, getting this, how do we go about this? If you want to go about this, we have three methods. You can use the factorization method. You can use the completing the square method. And lastly, you can use the what? The quadratic formula. Some call this almighty formula. So you can use the quadratic formula. And don't forget, this is known as the general equation for a quadratic equation. This is the general form. Yeah, let me call it the general form instead of using the general equation. This is the general form for a quadratic equation. We also have two other forms. We have factor form. So if you want to have this in factor form, then you're going to have ax minus r x minus s equals 0. So this is another form you can have a quadratic. This is called a factored form. Okay, and also possibly you can have it in vertex form. So your vertex form, then you can have your f of x to be equals to a. Okay, let's leave the vertex form for now because it doesn't go in line with what we intend to teach for today. But there are various forms you can have it, be it vertex general form or the factored form. These are several ways in which you can have your what? Your equation given to you. Okay, now today we are going to look at the factorization method, okay? Or let me call it the factored form. So that is the first thing we're going to look at, and examples will be given to us regarding that. Now, let's consider the following example. This is example 1. Okay, so find the zeros of this quadratic equation. You have x squared plus 7x minus 21 equals 0. So we want to find the zeros of this quadratic equation. Now, for us to do this, we have x squared. Let me write this question. Plus 7x minus 21 equals 0. You see, we make use of two methods here. And the first method you are going to make use of is that we are going to look for the factors of 21 such that when you add it together, it gives you this, which is a plus 7x. And when you multiply, when you find the product, it gives negative 21. So those are the two things we need to consider. Now, let's look at 21 as a number. What are the factors of 21? We multiply by what? By 7. Oh, let me change this to 4 so that the question can make sense more. Good, yeah. So 3 multiplied by 7 gives 21. So, to use the factor form, we have x. Now, we have 3 multiplied by 7 gives 21, but here we are having negative 21. How can we have negative 21? That means either this or this must be negative. So, and how do we determine that? Don't forget that we're having positive 4 here. So that shows that for you to have positive 4, that means the highest number must be positive, while the lower number must be what? Negative. Now, let's look at it. Negative 3 multiplied by positive 7 gives what? Negative 21. Minus 3 plus 7 gives what? Plus 4. So for you to fill in this, you are going to have minus 3 plus 7. Okay? Minus 3 plus 7 equals 0. So, to get the values for x, so you have your x minus 3 equals 0, or your x plus 7 equals 0. Okay? So, here we have x by adding 3 to both sides. So here we have our x to be equals to what? 3. By adding negative 7 to both sides, here your x equals what? Negative 7. So these are the two values for your what? For the zeros of x. Now, the next thing I think you need to do is to confirm how true this is. You need to confirm how true it is. And for you to confirm, that means you can plug in the value of your x into this equation. If it gives you 0, that means it is perfect. Okay? And for you to do that, yeah, don't forget we have x squared. By working it here, it's more or less like saying, let me just rule. So you plug in x for x squared, you plug in 3 for x squared, which is 3 raised to power 2 plus 4. So you plug in this 3 minus 21. We want to see if this is going to be 0. So 3 raised to power 2 gives 9. 4 multiplied by 3 gives 12. Don't forget minus 21. 9 plus 12 gives what? 21. So 21 minus 21 equals what? 0. You can see that that works. Now let's confirm also for negative 7. To confirm for negative 7, we've confirmed this and we can see that this works. So for negative 7, we have negative 7 all squared plus 4. Don't forget we are plugging in this value into the given equation to confirm if our answer is accurate. Plus 4 negative 7 minus 21. Let's see if this is going to give us 0. Negative 7 raised to power 2. It means negative 7 multiplied by negative 7, which gives 49, minus 4 multiplied by negative 7, which gives what? 28 minus 21. 49 minus 28 gives what? 21 minus 21, which is equals to 0. So with this, we can see that the 3 and the negative 7 happens to be the what? The zeros of this quadratic equation. So that is the first example we've been able to show. Now let's look for another example. Please, if you have any question, you can put it in the comment section. Okay, while we proceed, and don't forget to subscribe to this because we intend to be having the classes covering various topics in mathematics. Now let's look at example 2. I will clean this. So for example 2, so it says factorize. Let me just use factorize. Okay, don't forget we are working on quadratic equation. X squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. I want to use the same method we used previously to solve this. X squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Now, how do we go about this? So using the same method, rewriting this question, we have x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. So with this, don't forget, we look for the factors of these intercepts, which is 10. So what are the factors of 10? What are the two numbers that we can multiply together to give us 10? We have what? 2 and what? 5. Right? 2 and 5 gives 10. Now, remember that we have two conditions. The first condition is that these two factors, when multiplied together, must give us negative 10, which is there. And if added together, it must give us the coefficient of this x, which is negative 3. So 2 times 5 is 10. But we are interested in what? The sign also, which is negative 10. So that means one of them must be negative. So which one is going to be negative? Is it going to be 2 or 5? So here, for us to determine that, we have to consider these two. So here we are having negative 3. So 2 and 5, for you to have negative 3, it shows that the highest number must be negative, so that I can have negative 3. So that means you are going to have 2 and negative 5. Because 2 multiplied by negative 5 gives negative 10. That shows this rule has been satisfied. Right? So also 2 minus 5 gives what? Minus 3. That also shows that this second rule has been satisfied. So don't forget about that. The first thing you do is to look for the factors of this. So then the sign of that you have here is going to help you to determine which one is going to be negative, which one is going to be positive. If you have negative here, that means the highest number will be negative. If this is positive, that means the highest number will be what? Positive. So that's how you determine it. So now we are using 2 and negative 5. Now, to proceed with this, don't forget we have x equals 0. So here we are using plus 2 minus 5 equals to 0. So that's the shortcut to get it. That is the shortcut to get it. Now, proceeding with this is the same thing as saying x plus 2 equals 0. Okay? Or your x minus 5 equals 0. So for you to get your x minus 2 so that this can cancel out, your x is what? 0 minus 2 gives negative 2. Or for you to do this, add 5 to both sides. So here your x equals what? 5. So we have negative 2 or 5. Don't forget, in the previous example we did, we confirmed if these two answers is correct. And how do we confirm? You must plug in this value into this. But if you are perfect enough, you might not need to confirm. But if not, for the sake of an examination, I will encourage you to confirm. So let's confirm. So here, your x, which is negative 2, so you plug in x in place, you plug in negative 2 in place of x, negative 2 squared minus 3, your x, you plug in negative 2, okay, minus 10. So we want to confirm if it is equals to 0. If it is equals to 0, that means this answer is correct. So negative 2 raised to power 2 is going to give you positive 2. Okay? Negative multiplied by negative here is going to give plus 3 times 2, 6 minus 10. 4 plus 6 is 10 minus 10, which is what? 0. That means this is correct. Let's check for 5 also. To check for 5, so just plug in 5 in place of x. So where you have x, you put in 5 raised to power 2. Okay, don't forget this is the equation we are using. Minus 3, my x is the same thing as 5. Minus 10 equals 0. 5 raised to power 2 is 25 minus 15 minus 10. We want to check if it is equals to 0. 25 minus 15 is 10 minus 10 equals to 0. So that shows this is also perfect. So these are the values of x. And don't forget, like I said at the beginning of this class, is that look at the order given to you. If your order is 2, that means you must have values for what? For x. But if x plus 2 equals to 1, the order might be 1, then you only get for x. Now we proceed to example 3. For those of you just joining us, please kindly subscribe to this channel because we intend to be covering various topics in mathematics every day. So we move straight to example 3. And for your suggestion, you can put it in the comments section. Now, we have another example. Don't forget, I told you at the beginning that we have 3 methods. The factorization method, we have the square for solving quadratic equation. And the third one, we have the quadratic formula. So we are still on factorization. So let me give you another example whereby you have a leading coefficient So if you have a leading coefficient, take for instance, you have 2x squared plus 3x, okay, plus 2 equals to what? I want to be certain of the kind of question I'm setting, if it is going to be a perfect question. Okay, 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 plus 1. I'm coming. I want to be very certain of the kind of question I want to set so that it will not lead to the quadratic formula. Okay, okay, minus 5 equals to 0. Let's put it this way. Minus 5 equals to what? 0. Now, doing this, you will see that there's a difference between this and the previous question we've solved. And what is the difference? The difference is your leading coefficient. In the previous examples we've solved, in the previous 2 examples, we don't have leading coefficient. But in this case, we are having leading coefficients. So how do we deal with the leading coefficient? Now, this is it. It's very straightforward. Don't forget that the general form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx minus c equals to 0. So this is taking the form of a general equation. So let's see. In a situation whereby factorization approach does not work, then we'll resort to either completing the square or quadratic formula. But let's check if factorization approach is going to work for this. So the first thing that comes to your mind is to multiply this leading coefficient by c. So here you have what? 5 and 2. So here you are having negative 5. So you just have 5 minus negative 5 multiplied by 2. Okay? You have negative 5 multiplied by 2, which is what? Negative 10. So I'm going to use another approach to do this. And let's look for the factor that we used to do, which is what? And 2. But don't forget, your 5 will be positive while your 2 will be negative. Like I told you, the sign here will determine the sign in which the two factors is going to have. Since this is positive, the highest number here is going to be positive. But if this is negative, the highest number is going to be negative. Okay? So now, doing this, now I'm using another approach different from the one I used initially. So here I have my 2x squared. Let me keep this first. Okay? Minus 2x plus 5x. You'll be wondering, how do I get minus 2x plus 5x? Do you believe that 3x can be split to minus 2 plus 5? Minus 2x plus 5x gives what? 3x. So it is my 3x that I split into 2 by having negative 2 plus 5x. Okay? Minus this 5 equals 0. So what do we do next? What we need to do next is to what? Factorize. So just put this in parentheses by separating the 2. Look at this 2. What is common? You will agree with me that 2 is common. What is common us again? X is common. Okay? So I've taken out of 2x that we have here, this is x and x. Places I've taken 1 out and I've taken these 2 out. So I'll be left with x minus, I've taken the entire 2x out here. So I'll be left with 1. Plus, let's look at this. What is common between 5x and 5? You will agree with me that 5 is common to both sides. So taking out the 5. So I'm left with what? X minus 1 equals 0. Don't forget, we are working on factorization. Factorization is that any two common terms or values, just bring them out. That's what we intend to do. Now, let's look at this. You will see that x minus 1 is here, x minus 1 is here. They are like family members. They are identical twins. They look alike. Let's take them together by factorizing them out. So what is left? You have 2x plus 5 equals 0. Now, like what we did in the previous example, so here we have x minus 1 equals 0, or 2x plus 5 equals 0. So here my x equals 1, or 2x equals negative 5. Divide by x so that we can have our x. So finally, I have my x to be 1, or what? Negative 5 over 2. So that is what I have for my x. So we can confirm by plugging in the value of x into the given equation of 2x squared plus 3x minus 5. For those of you just joining, kindly please subscribe to this channel. Drop your suggestion in the comment section so that it can be helpful. So if you have any question also, you can put it in the comment section. Now, proceeding with this, we move straight to quadratic formula, and then by tomorrow we shall start with completing the square. So I think this. So we've done factorization, going straight to quadratic formula. Although this is just mathematics for those who are learning mathematics and who are not experts yet in mathematics. The formula for a quadratic from the completing the square. So for the quadratic formula, I'm just for those doing, then they are going to work on the derivation of the quadratic formula, but I don't want to go into extreme. So for our quadratic formula, we have that x equals minus b plus or minus root b to the power of 2 minus 4ac over 2a. And our quadratic equation itself, the general form of our quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is the coefficient of s squared. That is, a is any number you see with s squared, okay? B is the number you see with x, which is the coefficient, the same as coefficient of x, while c is the number that stands alone without having any x. So for you to compute your quadratic formula, we are only making use of this coefficient to compute this. So this is easy and straightforward, and you can solve any question on quadratic equation using this formula. So I'm going to use this formula to solve some of the previous examples we've solved initially. So I clean this and I'm going to leave this. So example 4. Don't forget to subscribe. Example number 4. I have x squared plus 3x minus, okay, let me change it this time around, plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. So I'm having x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. So I'm using the quadratic formula approach. So the first thing you do What is the coefficient of x squared? The coefficient of x squared is 1. But in mathematics, we can decide not to write the 1. So you know that any number that is with this should be 1. So using this general formula I gave you initially, ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So what is my a? From here, you agree with me that my a is what? 1. Abi? What about my b? Which is the coefficient of x. This is my b. The number standing with x, which is what? 7. Okay? What about my c? The one that really no x, which is 10. So we want to plug in these values into this general quadratic formula. So plugging this into this, we have that our x equals b, negative b, which is negative 7. We are plugging in this value of b plus or minus root b squared, which is 7 to the power of 2, minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 1, multiplied by c, which is what? 10. 2 multiplied by, what is my 2a? My a is what? 1. So, with this, we have that my x equals negative 7 plus or minus root 7 to the power of 2 is 49 minus 4 times 1 times 10 gives 40 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So continuing from this, I have that my x equals negative 7 plus or minus square root 49 minus 40 is going to give what? 9 over 2. So with this, we have that x equals negative 7 plus or minus, what is square root of 9? 3 over 2. So here we have x equals negative 7 plus 3. So because we are going to have two possible values, is either it is plus or minus 3. So the first one is plus 3 over 2. You have negative 7 minus 3 over 2. So here, my x equals negative 7 plus 3 is what? Negative 4 over 2. Or negative 7, negative 3 is going to give you negative 10 over 2. So my x equals negative 4 over 2 is what? Negative 2 or negative 5. So you can plug in these two values into the given equation. You can see that we're going to have the same thing. So you using your quadratic formula, your factorization approach, you're still going to get the same answer. Just that one thing about this quadratic formula is that no matter what, even if your answer is in decimal, it's going to give you the accurate answer. But when it comes to the factorization, if your answer is in decimal, you are going to encounter problem and you won't be able to go forward. So just know this formula, plug in the coefficients, and you're going to get your final answer. So for today, we are going to stop here, and in our next class tomorrow, we shall continue with what? With the completing the square method. Please kindly subscribe to this channel and also like this video. Put your suggestion in the comment section. Any topic you want us to treat, put it in the comment section, and I'm going to do justice to that. Thank you very much. See you next time.